Hello and welcome to Whistleblower Heroes, everyday heroes and educators sharing the information you need to know here on Revolution Radio, and I'm your host, Ella. What is a whistleblower? A whistleblower is a person who makes public disclosures of wrongdoing, corruption, and crime, and these courageous people often suffer retaliatory actions because of their disclosures. In the end, many of these people are often the catalyst for needed change and are eventually lauded as heroes. And I'm here to celebrate these heroes every week and give them a platform because shining a light on wrongdoing wherever it occurs plays an important role in keeping society peaceful, free, and just. So with me today, I have a former United States Customs Service whistleblower out of Atlanta, Georgia. I just want to say and welcome Cathy Harris. Thank you, Cathy, for agreeing to the interview.
Thank you so much, Ella, for having me here. And I want to thank you for your platform that you have given to all whistleblowers all over this country. Everyone is talking about how awesome your show is.
Well, thank you. I really appreciate it. So I'm going to give everybody a little more background on you. You're a former senior customs inspector for the U.S. Customs Service, USCS, at Hartsfield-Jackson International Airport in Atlanta. And you disclosed to the media the USCS practice of discriminatory racial profiling. Cathy Harris formed Customs Employees Against Discrimination Association and verified her suspicions that women of African descent are wrongfully targeted for detentions and strip searches as possible drug couriers. And I know you have a book. We can talk about that and talk about your experience and your strength and your hope and what you've gotten out of all of this. So I'm going to turn it over to you, and you can correct anything I say or add to what I'm saying, and then we can get on to with the interview.
No, I mean, everything you said is absolutely correct. Basically, I worked at four different duty stations with the Customs Service, U.S. Customs. Now they're called Customs and Border Protection. I worked in Houston as a secretary, El Paso as a customs inspector, Miami, Florida as a customs inspector. And by the time I got to Atlanta, Georgia, I was a senior customs inspector. But in Atlanta, I blew the whistle on what they was actually doing, because after witnessing all the illegalities take place in El Paso and Miami, I could no longer stay quiet. Most whistleblowers witness some type of illegality to the point where they can no longer stay quiet. Now, on the Mexican border, El Paso, Texas, they forced us, female customs inspectors, to take female travelers, pretty Hispanic women, in the search rooms and make them strip totally naked. And the reason why they did this is because these women refused to give my coworkers their phone numbers. They told us to take them in there, make them strip naked, and embarrass them. And if we didn't do that, they refused to back us up on the midnight shift, which was a very, very dangerous shift. So they forced us to inspect vehicles by ourselves on the 12 to 8 o'clock midnight shift if we did not make these women strip naked. And, after the first time, I didn't go along with them. So a lot of time, I wasn't backed up when I worked the midnight shift. So after leaving the El Paso border, I went to Miami, Florida. In Miami, Florida and Atlanta, Georgia, it was Black women. It wasn't Hispanic women that they were doing this to. In Miami, they would force women, handcuff these women to benches for hours outside of search rooms, because these women refused to have their illegal pat-downs, intrusive strip searches. So they would just handcuff them up to 8 hours outside of these search rooms. So when everybody came in the country, they could see these women, or they would walk them to a public restroom and force them to defecate with the doors open in order to embarrass them. Now, by the time I got to Atlanta, it was even worse. In Atlanta, they would handcuff Black women in search rooms to cold benches and leave them naked for hours. Or they would take them, or they would take them,
That's just disgusting.
Or they would take them to hospitals and force them to undergo an X-ray without a pregnancy test. Most women know that you should not take an X-ray without a pregnancy test. Or they would handcuff them to the bed for up to 4 days. Even when they was up to 8 months pregnant, they would just handcuff these women to the bed. They were trying to say that these women were mules, that they had actually swallowed drugs. And the only thing that these women did was flying while Black. So a lot of people call me the flying while Black or the racial profiling whistleblower.
I see. What was going on when you first discovered this? What was going on in your head?
Well, I can believe, first of all, it was taking place because I was raised in rural Georgia with a certain principle that everyone should be treated fair and right. So when I saw these illegality take place, it bothered me. But initially, I wasn't in a position to really do anything about it until I got to Atlanta, until I was a senior customs inspector in line for a supervisor position. That's when I realized that I had to come forward and expose what they were doing.
Mm. Yeah, I could imagine so. So, did you talk to someone before you made the disclosures, or who did you speak to exactly?
Well, the way that I actually formed my own organization because when you got an organization, when you're representing an organization, it means power. When you walk into a room and you're representing an organization, you've got power because they have no idea how many people you actually have in your organization. So I formed Customs Employees Against Discrimination Association. The second step I took was I went to the black press. I went to people who they were doing it to. I made my issue a community issue. So I went to all the black reporters that's based out of DC, and they have black reporters all over the country in all these cities. So I went to them and told my story, and they gave us a reporter. This reporter put out stories every 2 weeks that went out to 200 black newspapers all over the country. Now, the third step that I did was I went to a local investigative news team at Fox 5 Atlanta. Now, they took 4 months to conduct their own investigation. And after that, they aired my story, not just in Atlanta, but all over the country.
Hmm. What was the response? Was there feedback?
Oh, there was a lot of feedback.
I bet there
They aired my
was.
story. They had
Yeah.
2 male customs supervisors, about 6 feet tall, follow me around the airport all day long. These guys had guns on. I could not wear my gun because they had taken my gun from me on several occasions. So these guys walked behind me, 3 feet behind me all day. So the whole incident caused me to not feel well, of course. So I went to a psychologist, a psychiatrist. I got on medication thinking that I would be able to stay on the job if I went on antidepressants. But basically, the psychologist told me if I wanted to live, I needed to really leave the job. So I was put on unpaid stress leave for 15 months. No money, nothing coming in for 15 months. And I was a single mother with 2 daughters. One
Oh,
daughter
that's
had
so
just went to
great.
college and my other daughter was getting ready to go to college. So I was out here on unpaid stress leave without any money at all.
Yeah. I'm sure you were concerned about how you were going to pay the bills and take care of your family. I mean, did you have any backup plan? What did you
No.
have in mind?
Okay, the reason I was successful is because I had a lot of people behind me. I made my story a community issue. That was a community issue, the reason that was taking place. So I went to civil rights leaders, I went to the media, I went to attorneys, I went to advocates and activists, and they opened up a legal defense fund for me. Out of that legal defense fund, I was able to pay my bills. So for 15 months, that's how I actually paid my bills because the community, every time I continued to go on radio, I continued to go in the media, and they actually sent me money for this fund. So that's how I was able to live. You have to put your life out there. And the best way for you to survive as a whistleblower is to put your story in the media. You
I've
cannot blow
always
the
said
whistle
that.
in secrecy.
Yeah, I agree with you. I've always said that. And also, it's the best way to protect yourself. Because if you're out there and you're talking to everybody and something happens to you, it's going to raise some flags. People are going to try and figure out what's going on. People aren't stupid anymore. They're not, they see, patterns. They don't think it's a coincidence when something happens, when someone's just made major disclosures. So I agree with you 100%. Get yourself out there, get talking, create a stir, that. And for so many reasons other than that, should people come forward.
Mhm. Right. Well, again, if they don't want to have their story in the media, they shouldn't blow the whistle in the first place because you cannot blow the whistle halfway. You have to get out there and stay out there until some type of resolution takes place.
Yeah, sometimes with the agencies, I've spoken to many people on my show that are, alphabet agency, former employees, and they legally can't go to the press, but there's ways around it. We were talking about Jeffrey Sterling before the show, and he did go to the press, and apparently it got back, it leaked back to the government as well. He leaked this. I'm not sure the exact details, and I don't want to, do him a disservice by giving inaccurate information, but yeah, so they, in their case, they have to be a little more cautious. They'll end up in jail, in prison, just like Mr. Sterling did.
Right, right. Because they tried to say that I gave internal documents to my lawyer. These are documents that I printed off the government computer. So they tried to say that I broke a law. I gave these documents to my lawyer. My lawyer turned the documents over to the local investigative news team. Now, I didn't tell him to do that, but had I not printed out those documents, I would not have been able to prove my case. So if you're going to blow the whistle, you got to have some type of proof that this whistleblower, this illegality is taking place.
Yeah, you do need evidence. And tell me about this lawyer you obtained.
Well, I had a couple of different lawyers. The thing about most whistleblowers are also EEOC complainants. So I filed 10 EEO cases, a sexual harassment complaint, and a whistleblower complaint. So I had an EEOC attorney and I had whistleblower attorneys. Now, EEOC lawyers don't understand whistleblowing, and whistleblowing lawyers don't understand EEOC. So you have to actually get both attorneys to help you. Now, I was lucky to get the whistleblower attorneys out of Washington, D.C., the Government Accountability Project, Tom Devine. They helped me with my case, but initially I put my own case out there in the media. They came to me, and their advice was to stay in the media. Mm-hmm. And the reason I knew to put my case out there was I followed another whistleblower case from the Internal Revenue Service. Again, most whistleblowers blow the whistle because of other whistleblowers.
Yeah, I agree.
Internal Revenue Service whistleblower.
Yeah. So you were able to obtain an attorney. And what happened next? I mean, I know that he went to the press as well. So what was the next step for you?
Well, when I was off on 15 months of unpaid stress leave, I got a letter from U.S. Customs telling me that I was getting terminated. So they sent me a proposed termination letter. During that time, I stayed in the media, though, and everybody was trying to say, well, if she's in the media like that, she's okay to work, because I wasn't fired. Now, I was on unpaid stress leave. But the thing about when you on unpaid stress leave, that's actually a disability to the point that you can't work. But I still could talk in the media. So I was still out there in the media for that 15 months. The lawyers actually went with me to Washington, D.C., to plead my case before the United States Customs Service Board. And once they went in there, they were like Perry Mason, these attorneys. So when we came out of there, I knew that there was no way that they were going to fire me. Another big thing happened too during that 15 months. Essence magazine did an 8-page spread on my story. So if they had fired me, all the Black women in this country and overseas would have been upset. Again, Essence magazine put out this 8-page spread on me, and I found my coworkers looking at the article and everything. So when that article came out, they knew they couldn't fire me for turning over those internal documents. So all they did to me was gave me 10 days on the street. They benched me for 10 days. It suspended me for 10 days, and that was it. And I came back to work.
Mm-hmm. And like, you kind of indicated, you have to blow the whistle before they fire you, otherwise you won't be as credible.
Right. Right. And that's the biggest problem. A lot of people wait till after they blow the whistle to try to report some type of illegality. You have to report these illegalities before they terminate you, because otherwise you will be looked at like a disgruntled employee. And I knew that because they had written me up 25 times. Now, in the federal government, they can actually fire you with 3 letters of reprimands. They had wrote me up 25 times. So I knew it was a matter of time before they terminated me. So that's why I had to get out there and blow the whistle before they actually terminated me.
And then you made a point too. I noticed here that in some of the information you provided before that, and this is a good point because because you're abused on your job doesn't mean you're a whistleblower.
Right. Well, most people, that's the biggest problem with most employees in the workplace. They think just because they are going through workplace abuse that they are also a whistleblower. They're not a whistleblower. You are a workplace EEOC complainant. But again, you have to have an EEOC attorney, just like you have to have a whistleblower attorney if you're a whistleblower. But again, most people who are going through these EEOC cases are not whistleblowers. Now, at the beginning of the show, you gave a definition for a whistleblower. I'm going to go ahead and give another definition, but it's the exact same thing that you said, but I'm going to say it a little differently. Now, a whistleblower is a person who exposes mismanagement, abuses of authority, prohibited personnel practices, fraud, waste, abuse, and other acts of corruption which affects the health, the safety, and the welfare of an entire nation. So that's my definition of a whistleblower. Again, if you're abused on the job, you're not a whistleblower. You're only an EEOC complainant. Now, if you could round up 4 people, you can actually file a class action lawsuit. But over the last few years, Congress have weakened the laws in this country for filing class action lawsuits.
Yeah, that's interesting. This actually is something you taught me. Some of this is kind of vague sometimes. So this is very interesting, and I think this will really be helpful to our listeners and to people who are considering stepping forward and maybe sharing and disclosing information. Because sometimes I think I get listeners who are on the verge. They're kind of seeking out information about whistleblowers. So this is very educational.
Right. I've done a lot of research on whistleblowing. Like I say, I've written 3 books: Workplace Survival Guide, How to Fight Discrimination, Whistleblowing, and the Workers' Compensation System, Discrimination 101, The Complete Guide to Recognizing and Surviving Discrimination in the Workplace, Volume 1 and 2. And I also wrote Flying While Black. Now, the book Flying While Black was my first book that came out. And writing a book can actually help you win your case, because when my book came out in 2001, I sent over 300 copies to media entities, so they were able to read my story. But now I've changed the title of that book, and I broke it down into 2 other books: The Cathy Harris Story, A Whistleblower's Victorious Journey to Justice, and The Failure of Homeland Security, The Government's Dirty Little Secrets from an Insider.
How about a little summary about the book? I mean, you kind of covered it a little bit, but maybe go in a little further detail.
Well, the book talks about exactly what I did. The 2 books that's out now, the Cathy Harris Story talks about the abuse that government employees experience in the workplace. The Failure of Homeland Security goes more into what happened to people as they come in and out of this country. So I kind of broke down everything, but at the same time put everything together. Again, the name of the 2 books is The Cathy Harris Story and The Failure of Homeland Security. Now, I have everything up on my website at www.thecathyharrisstory.com. Cathy Harris, Cathy with a C, thecathyharrisstory.com.
And this is where your books are as well.
My books are there. So they can actually go to that page and order the books. They could, all the books are on Amazon. Every book in America is on Amazon. So they could go to Amazon and put in The Cathy Harris Story or The Failure of Homeland Security.
What about your family? Did people turn on you? Any of your friends or acquaintances or fellow employees? I'm just curious what kind of backlash on a personal level you might have experienced.
Of course. Everybody was afraid to speak to me. So when they would talk to me, but as soon as the supervisors came out of their offices, they would scatter like roaches because they wanted nothing to do with me. So nobody on the job would continue to talk to me. I was a single mom with 2 daughters, so I had my daughters and my immediate family, so they supported me. But the biggest thing, when you blow the whistle, you have to form a new community. So I had all the advocates and all these activists, all these civil rights leaders, all these media entities, all these attorneys. So I formed a new community. when I blew the whistle. I really didn't need the people in the workplace. If they didn't want to talk to me, fine, because I had people to support me.
Yes. You just said a different group of people now.
Right.
And, when this hit the media, was there other interest from various other groups? Were other papers? I mean, because I know you approached the Black community. What about other communities? Did they show interest?
Well, the thing about, let me tell you how media work, because I know a lot about the media. I know a lot about PR and everything. Mm-hmm. The way the media work, if you ever get a story put out in the Black press, mainstream media is going to pick it up. They look for stories. Today, they're looking for stories all on the internet. So if you blow the whistle today, all you need to do is put your story on YouTube and they will pick it up. So again, the local investigative news teams, they were white. That's Fox 5 News. Mm-hmm. So again, they did their own investigation, because when I initially talked to them, they couldn't believe what I was saying. They couldn't believe that all of that was taking place, but they did a 4-month investigation before they put the story out there all over the country.
Yeah, it does. When you first mentioned it to me, I was dumbfounded. I mean, it doesn't surprise me, and I find it just repulsive, but it takes a little in order to even believe it. I can see that they'd have to do a little bit of an investigation. So I'm glad that it was getting picked up, across the board.
Right. So yeah, a lot of good things happened because I blew the whistle. A lot of good things happened. They revamped the whole personal search handbook. When should they pull over people? And now they're collecting the race of people. As they pull people over, they have to put the race of the person in a database. In the past, they didn't even do that. They also introduced 2 bills, even though these bills were never passed. The fact that they were introduced was a great way forward. The Reasonable Search Standard Act and the Civil Rights for International Travelers Act. So these bills were introduced because of my whistleblowing and everything.
Mm-hmm. And you know what? Who's not to say that these bills won't, or a similar bill is not going to get passed in the future if this continues on some level?
Right. Well, the biggest thing, the only reason that those bills did not pass, the only reason was 911. Because when 911 occurred, it changed everything in the government. It changed how they search people and everything. It gave them carte blanche to really go out there and violate people, because we saw and we see now what TSA is doing to everybody as you go in and out, of TSA.
Mm-hmm. Right. Yeah. Well, I'm glad there's some changes finally, and I hope we continue to, face these issues that are coming about, and there's other things that are bothering me too. I just think we need to stay focused on this discrimination. This is 2018. It's time to, really unify as a whole country. I don't care what race, I don't care what your background is, I don't care if you're illegal. We definitely need to stand up and unify. Otherwise, people are afraid. Certain groups may be afraid of retaliation. This is a time where we have to be courageous and by anybody speaking out. I don't care. Like I said, it doesn't matter what group of person or what ethnicity. Those are actually someone who is of different ethnicity or a smaller group of people. They really do need to come forward so the rest of America can I think we have a more compassionate country at this point, but I've seen a little regression lately. So I just want everybody to really ideally, I just want everyone to work as a unified country, not these splintered groups. And I don't know, what's your opinion on that?
Well, I agree totally with what you're saying. We have to unify and come together. Everybody, no matter what race you are, you need to get out there and form your own organization or work with these other groups that's already doing the work. We need to do that. Right now, because of technology, you could go to freeconferencecall.com and you could hold all the free forums online forums. You could post your entire story on youtube.com. So because of technology, it has really made it much easier for us to unify and come together. And that's what we need to do. I agree totally with you. In order to turn this country around, we need to unify and we need to come together, and we need a whistleblower movement. We need everybody speaking the truth about everything in your life, being truthful. We need to elect legitimate legislators, people who are going to stand behind us and create great laws. We've got whistleblowers running for office right now. We need to support those whistleblowers who are running for office.
Do you know in particular? Because I would like to get them on the show, and I think it's so important. And I have worked, in various groups, and a human rights group with the same thing. We want a movement, and the problem is this is an issue. Hopefully, I'll get back to the point I was originally going to make. But people hear about these things going on, and they realize there's wrongdoing. Because, as you mentioned, we all need to unify. But wrongdoing is wrongdoing. It doesn't matter what color. Wrongdoing doesn't have a color.
Right.
And then the issue I kind of see with people is they kind of like, oh, that's awful. Oh, well, the next person will do something about it. And that's a really dangerous attitude.
Right.
We all need, even if it's not happening to you, you need to stand up as a citizen of this country, and you need to participate. And I just think that's one of the biggest problems. I go door to door sometimes, and I hand out flyers on, a particular human rights issue, and people are like afraid of it. They just don't have the quote unquote time to get involved, and that's really unfortunate for our country. And I hope that changes. I think just we have to let people know that you as a citizen are, you're responsible here. I mean, you're obliged to participate, and you're obliged to. You should feel a sense of responsibility. And you need to become more involved. When you say a movement, we need the general public on our side. There's only so many victims, only so many whistleblowers. We need the push from the general public to make things happen.
I think one of the things that's going to hinder us from doing a whistleblower movement because of what's going on in this country right now. Since blowing the whistle, I retired in 2005, and now I'm a GMO speaker. So I'm out there educating folks all over the country on what they have actually done to the food that's turning everybody's brain off. Mm-hmm. So if you see people right now who can't fight back, it's probably because of the food that they're eating. If they're eating processed foods, it actually put you into a zombie-like or a cocoon-like state to the point where you cannot fight back. You can barely walk and think simply because your brain is turned off. So until we educate people on what they've done to the food, it's going to be hard to create any kind of movement.
Yeah, anything that we're ingesting. Our water isn't really clean. And in our country in particular, we have all these strange preservatives, being European and coming from a European family. It's very evident to people in Europe and other countries that there's something wrong with our foods, and it's genetically modified food. And we're kind of going off topic a little bit, but it is relevant. In the 5G, I feel very strongly about this 5G and all this Wi-Fi and how it's affecting the human, physiology and the children. So I understand that, because you once you're awake, you're awake. You see things, you see wrongdoing everywhere, and it's unfortunate it's everywhere. And of course, there's a lot of great things going on as well. But once you're awake, that's just how it is, And then and then to get back on the subject of we were discussing, so we were talking about, there needs to be a whistleblower movement in this country. What about protections for whistleblowers?
Well, there are whistleblower law firms out there, but for a lawyer to take your case is probably going to be really, really hard unless you could get an audience in front of those lawyers. The reason that the Government Accountability Project took my case, there was a female intern working there who actually told them about what I was doing. And like I said, they came to me and told me to stay in the media. Then when I needed them to come and be my lawyer, they were there for me. But you out of DC, you got the Government Accountability Project at whistleblower.org. You got the National Whistleblower Center at whistleblowers.org.
Do I had somebody from the Government Accountability Project in it? Was it that someone reached out to me? They found me and they wanted to talk to me about whistleblowing. I'm not sure to what aspect. So I was like, wow, they're contacting me. So yeah, they're involved. They stay.
I'm telling you. You got one of the best whistleblower shows in this country. And at this point, I might even make the statement, you might have one of the only platforms out there for whistleblowers. So naturally, people are going to be drawn to you. These whistleblower attorneys, you need to be in touch with them right now and continue this platform. And you might even be the one that's going to lead a whistleblower movement for people to turn this country around.
Well, and I hope it inspires others. Yeah, I hope it inspires others to maybe take up this cause as well. And we're hoping, we're just working on raising some funds. We're planning on having the largest whistleblower convention down in Los Angeles. So, maybe it's something if you're interested in. But we're trying to get to where we can, pay for everything. We want to pay for the, tickets and the hotel. So it does get expensive. So, but we just want it to be a wonderful experience for not just the people coming down there to share their stories. And we just, so that's what we're working on right now. So, stay tuned for that as well. And then also,
Okay.
if, I don't know if you have a
Put up a
PayPal.
GoFundMe? Did you put up a GoFundMe and everything?
I do. We have on our website, whistleblowerheroes.org, and there's a PayPal, but we're probably going to do a GoFundMe. It's more transparent as well. So we might switch to that we're just going to raise some money. We need to get the venue, and that's where you need a little bit of money. I can't believe the wonderful people that are involved, and I mean, that have penciled themselves in. I mean, I'm very grateful. And one thing that's so great about whistleblowers, so many of them are really noble people and courageous people. So when they say they're going to do something, they do it. I've never had a whistleblower cancel. I've had people who aren't really whistleblowers cancel, but, or something comes up, but they always make sure that they show up. There's a lot of integrity in this community, I have to say.
Now, did you make it to the Whistleblower Summit in Washington, D.C.? I think you made it out there over the last couple of years, right?
No, I did not make it, but I'd sure like to. I'd like to go to D.C. There's a lot going on in D.C. as far as whistleblowers are concerned.
Well, D.C. is ground zero for federal abuse, and I have a lot of friends out there. I just don't know how they continue to stay out there. Even though you're no longer a whistleblower, you still got to be around all these unethical politicians. So I just don't think I could do it. So I advise a lot of people, once you blow the whistle, you got to bring your life back to some sense of normalcy, even if it means moving to another city. I live in a total new city now from where I was when I blew the whistle.
Yeah, I hear that a lot. You're the second or third person says, you've got to continue on. You've got to find another, you can't, you need to go on with your life, and you need to maybe have some different goals. And, and people like you get involved in the community as well, and sharing your story and supporting whistleblowing and giving advice. So yeah, that was very good advice. And I've been hearing that a few times now.
Right. I mean, you got to, again, bring your life to some sense of normalcy. And, first of all, you got to look at what you're eating every day. You need to eat organic food. You need to drink good, clean water. You need to take supplements every day. You need to exercise and get plenty of rest. That's balance. And, I ended up on medications when I was a whistleblower. But if I knew then what I know now, I would have handled my depression with exercises, eating good foods, and getting enough rest. I would have handled the depression differently. And that's the only time in my life that I ever been on medication. I was on medication for 1 year. But again, that's the only time I ever been on medication. So again,
I understand.
Because antidepressant actually causes depression.
Yeah, and suicidal thoughts, it's really scary, especially in teenagers, And by the way, if you're just joining us, I have former United States Customs Service whistleblower, and she's from Atlanta, Georgia, and she's sharing her story and giving input and sharing all her expertise on this topic. So just want people to pay attention to that. So now back to what we were discussing. So we were just, go back and go at it. I didn't mean to interrupt you there.
No problem. Most whistleblowers are not in it for the money. They feel that if they could get their story out to the right people, that changes is going to be made. But that's usually not the case. But that's what most whistleblowers think. They think that if they could get out there and tell their stories.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. So maybe let's talk a little bit about, so I know we were talking a little bit about safeguards for whistleblowers. So we have the Government Accountability Project. When you have the National Whistleblower Center, I see you have that listed, and Project on Government Oversight, and then protecting employees to protect our environment. So this is all great. Do you have this stuff on your website as well?
No, I need to put it up on my website. I will be putting it up on my website. But what everybody needs to understand, every city has what they call a whistleblower news channel. They have whistleblower lawyers in every city. You need to contact the legal hotline in your city And again, look at those news stations. One of those news stations or all of those news stations have a whistleblower hotline. So when I went to Fox 5 News Atlanta, I knew they're not going to specifically say that they're a whistleblower hotline, but that's what they are. So that's how I was able to get that news station behind me, because these people are in every city. So don't think that you have to reach out to Washington, D.C., because you can imagine that these attorneys are inundated with cases out there.
Mm-hmm. And you sent me the list, and in this list that you had sent me, or the document, you have 10 facts you did not know about whistleblowers. And one thing that is interesting, there are many whistleblowers who are women.
Right. Well,
and I
women,
sometimes
first
think,
of all, let's look at women compared to men. Women raise kids, they're nurturers. So naturally, when they witness some type of illegality, they're going to come forward simply because of the way that we're built compared to men. So a lot of whistleblowers out there, and I saw this firsthand, are women.
Yeah, you see a lot of the men that are whistleblowers, but I hope these women start maybe getting their voice out a little bit. I've heard that too, and women just, not to compare men and women too much, or, but women can be so conscientious, they have to be, they're they're nurturers. And so, generally speaking, I can see why women are the whistleblowers, so men can compartmentalize. And I've talked to men, they say they went along with things, they went along with wrongdoing, just for the money, and because they didn't want to lose their job, and they felt a sense of responsibility to their family not to sabotage or jeopardize their job, whereas women, they just can't work knowing things like this, or knowing that there's wrongdoing going on. So I don't say, because you're a single mom, so you had a lot to lose as well, but it's true, there are a lot of women.
Right. But I did, and you guys need to understand, I did wait till my daughter got in college before I came forward, even though I had seen these wrongdoings take place for years. I waited till my oldest daughter got in college, and my next daughter was right behind her before I actually went to the media. But I had to go at that particular time simply because I had to go before they terminated me. So by then, they had written me up 25 times, which meant that they could have terminated me at any time.
And then number 2, you have whistleblowers are true public servants.
Right. And they should give themselves attaboys, because, when you blow the whistle, it puts you in another dynamic. You should be proud of yourself. You're doing it for the public. You're not doing it for yourself. And everybody needs to understand that it's not about yourself. It's greater than yourself. The reason when people come out and blow the whistle, the whole thing is greater than them. It's for the public.
It's interesting when I reach out to people, when I find them, or someone suggests them, most of them don't even see themselves as a whistleblower, and they'll tell me, what their experiences are. I'm like, you are a whistleblower. That is the exact definition, and then I talk to some whistleblowers that I've heard, wonderful things about, and they're like, oh, well, I don't know if I'm worthy of, being interviewed and going out in public and like, oh, you are. I've heard the most amazing things, just like you came highly recommended. And, sometimes I don't think they realize, people are so humble, and they don't set out to be a whistleblower. Most of them accidentally, they're accidental whistleblowers. They stumble on some, maybe they're not supposed to know about it, or whatever the case may be. So, yeah, it's interesting. Very little ego, that's for sure. I mean, I've met some that maybe
when I blew the whistle, it took me a whole year to blow the whistle. So you need to understand that I did not blow the whistle overnight. You cannot blow the whistle overnight. It took me a whole year to come forward. During that year, I got together all the media entities. I looked at how I was actually going to blow the whistle. So for me, I couldn't do it overnight. It took me a whole year before I actually realized, okay, you've got to do this. This is the only way around this. You have to do it.
Yeah, agreed. It weighs heavily. Thank God human beings are wired that most part. I mean, we know, but they're always at the top of the top of the food chain, or top of, I shouldn't say that, the people running some of these corporations, or whatever the case may be, they seem to have less of a conscience. And then you trickle down to, people that work underneath that, they tend to be more conscientious, thank goodness. And then also, number 4, we have many whistleblowers are also EEOC government complaints and complainants, and we kind of went over that a little bit. And then number 5, many whistleblowers face major retaliations, including death threats and even jail. That's a fact.
Right. And again, the only reason that they didn't threaten me was the fact that I was the expert shot with a weapon. On my job, it was mandatory that we wear weapons, but they had took my gun on 4 occasions. But when I had my gun, and they didn't know if I had a gun at home, so they never did try to come to my home or threaten me in any fashion, simply because I was the expert shot. So my advice to everybody, if you're going to blow the whistle, get out to the gun range, learn how to shoot a weapon.
Yeah, we were talking prior to the show, and you told me that. I go, makes sense to me, because we were talking about some of the other type of retaliation that some of these women were discussing, what they're experiencing, and you said, well, I carry a gun, and I'm an expert shot, so I don't have some of that harassment and some of those techniques being used against you.
Right. So I think I cut out a lot of retaliation simply because I was an expert shot. So again, get out there to that gun range.
And then we were talking about this is true too, I know this to be a fact, many whistleblowers are blackballed, which makes it hard to find another job in their cities. I hear that quite often.
Well, when you blow the whistle, you get blackballed. You cannot find a job in your city. So basically, when you blow the whistle, you need to understand your whole life is going to change. When I blew the whistle for years, people looked at me as a whistleblower. I thought when I leave this world, when I passed away, that because of how everybody looked at me, that they would probably put the word whistleblower on my tombstone. But eventually, people forgot who I was in regard to whistleblowing, because right now I'm building a movement around other issues. But again, people are blackballed, so you need to be ready for it, which means that you need to turn yourself in a direction where you can survive and do something else once you blow the whistle, because chances are you're not going to be able to stay in that workplace. I don't care if you move to another city. They are going to monitor you for a minute. So you got to be ready to do something. Write a book. Get out there on a speaking tour if you're going to blow the whistle.
Yeah, there needs to be some safeguards. Like I always think, there needs to be a law if someone's been a whistleblower that they need to have equal opportunity, because if you get too many people that are being denied work because of it, I don't know how that would work, but I really wish there was some kind of it's discrimination. So, and I just hear it too often. I just think there's got to be a way to protect people and ensure that they have a fair chance at a job. But it's one of those murky waters. Yeah.
It's going to be hard today because of the Me Too movement. Right now, men won't even hire women in the workplace because of the Me Too movement, because they think that these women are going to file some kind of complaint against them. So for is creating something in the workplace for people is not going to happen. You're going to have to get out there and probably start your own business.
Yeah, agreed. Yeah, because entrepreneurship is a great way to make money. And then you also have a little bit of public. You're in the public eye a little bit, so you're definitely going to get the attention. And it is not a bad chance. It's not a bad opportunity to take. But right. It does concern me, this whole blackballing thing. It's just so prevalent.
Right. And one of the things that I did was, I continue to do a newsletter every month. And I still have a lot of those media entities that help me blow the whistle. They still look at what I'm doing. So again, when you blow the whistle, you cannot go somewhere and sit in a corner, because that's when they're going to come after you and they will kill you. So once you blow the whistle, you got to stay out there in the public eye.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. I got a call this morning, or not a call, I got an email, and this is exciting to me that this topic is kind of catching on. And, Edward Snowden really was the catalyst, I think. And he did set an example. And even though like he's in another country and he is forming, he is dealing with some retaliation, although some of the whistleblowers here are like, you should face the music here. He's still, he lives in Russia. So despite seeing what happened to him after coming forward, people are still doing it. So that says a lot about humanity. That's the good part of humanity. So this gentleman reached out to me, and he's interested in writing a script and making a film about whistleblowers, and he wants me to help him. And I was like, wow, this topic is taking, flight a little bit. I'm glad that there is interest in this topic.
Well, everybody needs to do something like that. Like I said, write a book, do a movie about whistleblowing. Right now, in the future, everybody is looking at Netflix, Amazon, and Hulu. You could write a script, write a movie, and put it out there. It's pretty easy to do all of that today with all of this technology. Internet radio shows. We need to be talking about whistleblowers everywhere. The word whistleblower needs to be coming out of everybody's mouth all over the country. But again, we have to educate people first, because again, most people still don't understand what is a whistleblower.
Mm-hmm. Agreed. Yeah, but again, when we're talking about social media or YouTube, and also the cost of, like, say you want to do a documentary, it's not hard it's inexpensive to make one. And people will step up and appear in your documentaries. You'd be surprised. These are some really wonderful people we're dealing with here, including yourself. And also, like you said, you can write a book, and then even like marketing is not that difficult anymore. And plus, you already have the ear of the public, so marketing is not tough. And it's just an ideal time to use technology. I have my qualms with technology, but there's the flip side of it too, and it's a great opportunity to get information out there. Information that think about the 90s was not out there, even though we had computers. They were kind of archaic the way they worked, but here we are, and that information's at our fingertips.
Right, exactly. So people need to get out there and just blow the whistle and get out there and make a movie, write a book about your story, go on a speaking tour. Because like I said, once you blow the whistle, your whole life is going to change. I went back to the same workplace, and everybody, all my coworkers told me, you got nerve to blow the whistle on us and come back up in here. That's really brave to go back to the same position. That really never happens. Most people, when they blow the whistle, they never go back to that same workplace. And that's what I did. My friend said, wow, you were like Lazarus rising from the dead when you came through those doors. Mm-hmm. But you got to be brave. That's the thing about it. You got to be brave. You got to understand that these people in these workplaces put on their pants just like you. You cannot let people intimidate you. You need to understand they're going through the same issues that you're going through. So you just got to be brave and put one foot in front of the other one and keep walking every day. The thing about fear, you have to keep walking through fear, because eventually the fear is going to turn into enthusiasm and joy, but you have to keep walking through the fear.
Yeah, fear can be invigorating, I've discovered. You may not know what's going to happen. You don't know what's going to be done to you, but it's very, it gets me inspired a little bit, and it's invigorating. And then it is. And even anger, like anger at a system, anger at harassment, and all these different things. Anger, can be channeled. It can be the most motivating force in your life. And it will make a huge difference if you're focusing into, making a change, And if you're just, say, on a local level, you don't necessarily have to be a whistleblower, but you have concerns, and you're concerned about health and safety. That too is a very noble thing to do. You go to your city council and you bring things up. You don't want Wi-Fi in the school, and you don't want that bombarding your kids. Go to the city council, see if they're going to hardwire everything. So that's just an example. So everybody on some level has this ability to to try to make a change.
Try to make a change. Sometimes it takes one person to make a big, big change. Most people don't know, when I blew the whistle, I had 5 people around me. People thought, since I had an organization, I had all these people in my organization. No, I had 5 people around me: a husband and daughter team, a mother and a daughter team, a husband and wife team. I had these people around me protecting me. When I was too sick or depressed to talk to the media, they talk to the media for me. So right now, you need to put people around you that's going to be a voice for you in case you can't speak. Get out there, look at who's around you. If you got these naysayers, these doom and gloom people around you, get you another group of people around you that's going to inspire you to do your best and to be your best in this lifetime. This is one of the best times ever to be alive in this country right now, despite what's going on out there. But you got to wake up every day, turn off the TV, because too many people look at the negativity on TV. Turn on YouTube and find out what's going on. Look at some of those documentaries on Netflix, Amazon, and Hulu.
Get out there and make a difference. And
Yeah,
don't
go
forget
ahead.
what you see on the news is so controlled. That is a controlled narrative. Oftentimes it's a distraction to keep people thinking and busy on topics maybe that are a waste of time. So just remember that is a controlled narrative. Like at this station, there's no commercial interest. You can plug a product if you want as an individual host, and you're allowed to just share a website, and so can your guests. But the station itself is only supported by listeners. So, my point being, there are independent, media sources, and they have more freedom to cover topics that the mainstream won't touch, because it goes through a long process and a lot of approvals have to be made before something hits mainstream.
Right. Exactly. And the biggest thing, I think, like you said, the biggest thing is to turn off that TV, because when you wake up in the morning, if you turn that TV on in the morning, you've already allowed negativity to come into your life. I get up and I put my TV on YouTube on the motivational channel while I'm exercising. Then I go to the gym and, do what I need to do during that day. You got to have some kind of ritual every day. A ritual is just like a habit. You have to have habits. It takes 2 to 3 weeks to form new habits. So get out there and form good habits, form good rituals, and get out there and live your life. And don't listen to these people. Create a life that you can be proud of, a life where you can leave a legacy behind for your family.
Right. And so today, let's talk about today and your future plans. Like, I know that today you're an empowerment, and you've earned this. You're an empowerment and motivational speaker. You're a non-GMO health and wellness expert. You're an advice columnist at dearcathy.com. You're a business and self-publishing coach. She is the CEO, I should say you are the CEO, president and publisher of angelspress.com, an empowerment and publishing company where you have released 25 nonfiction books and was part of the American Whistleblower Tour. And you have more workplace books, ebooks. I like that, angelspress.com. It's a workplace survival guide, how to fight discrimination, whistleblowing, and the workers' compensation system. I just kind of want to cover what we did earlier in case someone's joining us late. Discrimination 101, the complete guide to recognizing and surviving discrimination in the workplace. Discrimination 101, the complete guide to recognizing and surviving discrimination in the workplace, volume 2. So what else you got planned in the future?
Well, basically, what I'm getting ready to do, I'm getting ready to blast social media, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, Periscope. I'm getting ready to teach by video, webinars. I'm getting ready to teach by videos. I've already written 25 books. Before I leave this earth, it is my goal to have 40 to 50 books out. And meanwhile, I just want to be out there teaching by video. So that's what I'm getting ready to do. I want people to join my mailing list at Cathy Harris International.com. Check out the Cathy Harris Story at www.thecathyharrisstory.com. And I want people to reach out to me. If you need help or advice, I can give you some advice for free. So again, we have to be there for each other. So call me anytime at 512-909-7365, 512-909-7365, or email me at CathyHarrisInternational.com.
And maybe we can touch, because we still have a couple more minutes. Let's talk about some of the things that inspire you and motivate you, and share some of your motivational. You shared a little bit just about exercising and creating these habits, and I like this aspect of the interview. So I'll turn it over to you. This is what you do.
Yeah, well, what inspires me is having these rituals, having these habits. You have to work on it. You got to get rid of this negative self-talk. A lot of people say negative things to themselves, and we are our biggest critic. What you got to do, you got to read books.
Go ahead. We're heading out now. The show is ending, but go ahead and finish up. And make your,
just read books and other things that's going to inspire you. Get around things that's going to inspire you. And again, go to my website at Cathy Harris International.
Thank you, Cathy, so much for this interview. And remember to donate at our station. You can go to freedomslips.com. Freedomslips.com. My website is whistleblowerheroes.org. Whistleblowerheroes.org. Got an email address on there.